Cincinnati offers a diverse housing market, but there are probably some homes that are better to avoid. In this video, I'm going to highlight some of the red flags to watch out for when house hunting here in the Queen City. From potential maintenance nightmares to locations that might not have great resale value, I'll help you steer clear of homes that could turn into ongoing headaches and money pits. So let's get started. I'm Angela Evans with Cincinnati, Ohio Living. And if you're searching for a home, you know that it can be an overwhelming, frustrating, and extremely stressful task, especially with the market right now, with there being more buyers than there are homes for sale. So I hope you find value and avoid some costly mistakes by watching this video. So if you disagree with anything I say or think I missed something, go ahead and drop a comment below and let me know why you disagree or what you think I missed. I'd love to hear from you. With that being said, let's jump into the types of homes that I would avoid. Bad flip jobs. Don't get me wrong, there are plenty of house flippers who do a really great job and don't cut corners, and they provide a really excellent finished product. And they're not cutting corners just to save a buck. But if you walk in a house and you right away can see some things very obvious that weren't done well, like a paint job, for example. One of the things that is a personal pet peeve of mine is when there are uneven lines and just half done paint job. I right away go to start questioning, what else did they cut corners on? What else did they not do fully or completely? So many times house flippers might not even use licensed contractors. They won't have permits pulled to do the work. And sometimes investors that are house flippers aren't even located in the same city. They never step foot in the house. They hire out work to be done, and they never even see the finished product. I saw this firsthand happen on a street that I listed a house for sale for about a year ago, and I actually reached out to them after touring this home with a buyer because it was that bad. They had never seen the property. They didn't know what the finished product looked like, so just a heads up, you might want to check that. Now, I've personally seen excellent, top-notch quality work done without a permit being pulled, but some people care about that, some don't. But it's just something to consider if there's been major HVAC work done or electrical or plumbing. If they're not having permits or using a licensed contractor, there could be a lot of things that go south with something like that. So I personally always recommend that if something like that was just recently replaced or done, I recommend obtaining the documentation for that. So, the receipt, the paid receipt, the warranty that might apply, things that a buyer is going to want for a property. And also it just is an extra step of due diligence to make sure that the work was actually done that they said was done. I have found that the more questions you ask on a flip job and the more they start to avoid or not fully answer those questions, the more obvious it is that they probably cut some corners that they shouldn't have. So I would stay away from something like that. Bad flip jobs equal a money pit. So our next home to try to avoid would be really old homes. When you're looking at a home that's maybe 100 years old or more, you have to consider things like the electrical, the plumbing, the materials that were used when the house was built, things like asbestos and lead pipes, things that are known to be hazardous to your health, and they're extremely costly to remove. Plus, Cincinnati is known for its hilly terrain, so that can lead to foundation and water issues, especially when you're considering a 100-year-old home that has a stone foundation. Another thing to consider about these really old homes are that a lot of times there's little to no insulation. The windows are usually old and not insulated either. And most of the time, generally, some of them can be really big homes. So your utility bills are going to be extremely high in a home like that. So while these homes can be really unique and have a ton of character and charm, you really need to ask yourself if you can put the kind of money into this home ongoing, because it's probably going to require it. Really old homes equal money pits and potential resale issues. because they appear to a smaller buyer pool. All right, next up are homes with strong smells. And I don't mean homes that just kind of smell. I mean the ones that you can barely breathe in because the smell is that pungent. Woo! Animal urine, especially cat pee, and smoke are usually huge deterrents, not only because of the smell, but because of the cost associated with getting the smell out of the home. And we're talking about not only having to maybe replace the carpet or the carpet pad, but also potentially the subfloor underneath, depending on how bad the problem really was. And while smoke might be a little easier to remove from the air with some heavy duty air cleaners, you're going to want to also get the HVAC thoroughly cleaned. And you'll have to consider things like insulation if that also smells and needs to be replaced. One other aspect of this to consider is if there's an animal infestation. Raccoons, squirrels, mice, they can get into places and completely destroy them. And while getting rid of the animal itself is probably the easiest part of the task, then you have to consider the expenses that are going to come with replacing or repairing the parts of the home that they've damaged in the process. So this also brings up the topic of mold. No one likes to hear the word mold mentioned, and if a home inspector mentions that there may be mold somewhere, people just run for the hills. So I have mixed feelings on mold. There's mold everywhere, in the air outside, in houses. It's kind of something that's nearly impossible to avoid. And sometimes I feel like there's a lot of companies out there that almost want to take advantage of people for not knowing what is mold and what isn't. And sometimes will just come in and give an astronomical quote to remediate the mold when maybe in fact there's not even a mold issue. But people get so freaked out by it that they want to do anything possible to get rid of it if they think it's there. And let me tell you, mold doesn't apply to just old homes. It can also apply to really new or brand new construction homes. So strong odors and the potential for mold growth equals a money pit and a major ongoing headache. All right, so the next type of home I try to avoid are homes with bad locations. If there's one thing you can't fix about a home, what is it? Location, location, location. Homes located in floodplains, homes that are always geographically battling nature, homes that are located on busy roads. I personally would always try to steer clear of these types of homes. Homes that are located in a floodplain, even a 100 to 500 year floodplain, which means that it could flood once every 100 years or once every 500 years. But it's not the greatest idea. Not only are your insurance costs going to be higher, but you also take the risk of potentially having your entire home flood at some point. I don't know about you, but that's not a risk I'm willing to take. Another one is homes that are geographically not ideal. Let me explain that. So like a house that's sitting down a really steep hill or driveway, kind of sitting in a hole almost, or a house where there's a really steep hill directly behind the home. These homes are always going to be continually battling water from rain or snow melting. So it's not to say that it can't be done, and there are plenty of homes with this issue, but you're just going to have to be really proactive in making sure you have the appropriate types of drains outside. Make sure those drains aren't covered with leaves or debris regularly, and also that you have a sump pump in your basement if that is a continual issue, and make sure that it's functioning. So overall, they just require some more attention and proactiveness. Another location that's not really ideal for resale are homes on busy roads, near industrial plants, or right next to a railroad track. While you're going to see a lower purchase price with this home initially, it does come with a cost. If you have kids or pets, you're going to want to ask yourself if the noise doesn't bother you. If you entertain a lot, you might ask, is it going to bother me if I sit outside with my friends and can hear all the traffic? My husband and I looked at a really beautiful house a couple years ago, and it was on a couple acres. It was really private. It was really close to a large park here. And what we didn't realize was how close it was to the highway. But when we looked at the house, we actually could hear the highway traffic from inside the house. That was a deal breaker for us. It might not be a deal breaker for everyone, but it is something to consider. and it is going to affect your resale value because not everybody wants to be able to hear traffic from inside their home. So you're probably going to run into issues when you would try to resell a home like this, as these aspects that made the home more affordable initially will also make the home less desirable to other buyers. Bad location equals potential resale issues. And the next home that I would try to avoid is a home that has really outdated features or mechanicals, or on the flip side, has really custom, over-the-top, high-end features. So first, when a home has really custom, over-the-top features, that's going to drive up the price, and they might not even be features that you care about or want to use. And these things can also sometimes get pricey to have removed. And you're going to also want to consider the neighborhood that it's in. For example, having a luxurious bathroom with high-end finishes and a heated floor and marble countertops might be a bit overboard depending on the neighborhood that you're in. Or if there's really high-tech custom gadgets throughout the home, but they're difficult and complex, or they're really just unnecessary for the majority of the population's lifestyle, then you'll probably end up not using it or paying to get rid of it altogether. Now, on the flip side, outdated or really inconvenient features can also make you want to avoid a home. One of the things that I always try to make sure my buyers know are the ages of, the air conditioning, the furnace, the roof, the hot water heater. If there are other appliances in the home, check the age of those as well. Those are big ticket items, and if something were to happen and they need to replace that shortly after moving in, that sometimes can make people think twice. Many times if units are newer, they'll still be under warranty, and sometimes we'll have a transferable warranty. So that's a good thing. So another aspect to consider is outdated electrical, such as old wiring types that are reaching the end of their lifespan, or old electrical panels like Federal Pacific panels. Good luck finding an insurance company to insure that one. I recently had a client that needed to upgrade the electrical panel, which can vary depending on how big of a panel you need. A few years ago, to replace ours, I want to say it was about $2,500. So I'm sure it's a little bit more than that now, but that can be a somewhat easy fix as long as the rest of the entire house doesn't need to be rewired. But it's not always that simple. If you have knob and tube or other old wiring systems, you may be running into a $10,000, $20,000 issue where you have to rewire the whole home. Another inconvenient feature to consider is when a home doesn't have public water or sewer or natural gas. So the alternative to a public sewer is a sewage treatment system, like a septic tank or an aerobic discharge system, which can be extremely expensive to replace or repair. Most of the time, you're going to have county approval and use a list of county approved contractors to work on the system. So that can get pretty pricey. And then with like a septic system, if you have to have a new one installed, you usually can't just replace it where it sits currently. You have to have a whole different location that it gets approved to be on for the county. And then if you don't have public water and you have like a well or a cistern, that can present its own issues. And sometimes it's not possible to verify if it's leaking or if it's somehow contaminated. So that's just something to consider if you're looking at a house that has that type of water supply. And if you only have electric to heat your home in the winter here in Cincinnati and you don't have a natural gas option, be ready for a hefty electric bill. Unless you have solar panels or a specialized system that runs on propane when needed, your electric bills are going to be pretty high. Here in Cincinnati, we've had temperatures around zero the last few winters, and so even with a brand new high efficiency furnace, your electric bills are still going to be high on those cold winter months. All right, so it's a tough market out there right now for buyers. So make sure you have an agent guiding you through the process when you're looking to buy a home. Ask for seller property disclosures. Find out the ages of the roof and the mechanicals. Call the utility companies and get the last year's average for the water and the gas and electric bills. And don't waive inspections. And ultimately, don't settle for a house that needs a ton of work or has a bunch of red flags just to get into a house. It's only going to cause headaches and financial burdens for you down the road. So I'd love to hear what kind of properties you stay away from. Drop a comment below and let me know why you avoid those types of properties. Be sure to subscribe to my channel for more real estate content. And if you're thinking about making a move, go ahead and use my contact information in the description box below. I'd love to hear from you, and thanks for watching today.